Welcome to Anime Fix, everyone.
Oh,
You have myself, Chase, and
my name is Lance.
hello, Lance.
So Chase,
What are we talking about today, Lance?
you're talking about the greatest movie of all time, Your Name.
I don't know about greatest movie of all time, but it's definitely up there.
Well, for a noob such as myself, it's
Oh,
today the
for like
greatest movie of all
for like an
time.
anime?
Yeah.
Okay, that's fair. That makes sense. I am pulling up my notes. We didn't have a podcast last week. What was that, Lance?
Because you don't know how to manage your time.
Yes, that has been my whole life's goal is how to manage my time. It really is. But first off, I didn't wake up early enough. But second off, I didn't go to bed late enough the night before, right? Because I had some
Fact,
family in town, and then they just kind of put a wrench in everything. So I'm gonna blame it on them, and nothing's ever my fault,
obviously.
obviously. Well, I bet you have a list of things to talk about, and so do I.
I do. I have about a page and a half. Well, maybe more. It's a small notebook, so more like maybe a page.
Yeah, I have
Um,
like a page about it as well. Yeah.
I'll just start. First thing I notice on a rewatch is that the opening really sets the tone, the different worlds of the characters before they even know the adventure they're about to go on.
Yep.
The music, uh, the, the animation, the design, like the strings sort of floating through the air, like all that stuff really tells you what's going to happen before you even know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
So,
Um, Going back to that point is the and what I wrote down. The first thing that I um, wrote down when I was rewatching it um, was I can't remember if it's Misura or what's the guy's name again? Um,
I wrote it down here. I think
Mitsura is the girl. I know
Taki.
that.
Yeah, his
Taki,
name's Taki. Yeah,
Taki, kind of like those rolled tortilla chips, Takis, right?
yeah, yeah.
Um, do you remember which one said, "Sometimes I wake up crying and I don't know why"?
It was Misaki,
Mitsuri?
pretty sure, or Mitsuri.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
I'm pretty sure she was the one that said it, and then like that kind of set the tone for me. Like again, watching it because I haven't watched it since like 2016, and I'm sitting there like, that's a that's a crazy like deep like thing to say starting out a movie. I'm like, oh my goodness, what am I watching
yeah,
again?
they're really hammering in. It's going to be an emotional experience. I think what differed for me this time. So I have a real struggle when it comes to watching just any sort of content that if it doesn't grab my attention very quickly, I'll watch it, but I'm kind of like only passively listening or
Yeah,
passively
like
watching.
I'm on my phone and everything.
Um, yeah, yeah, and which isn't good. It's a bad habit in general, but it happens.
Same.
And but this one, and we're gonna talk about that later. But I remember when this just grabbed my attention, and I was like, "Wait a minute, what happened in the first 10 minutes? What did I miss? I am invested in this." And so when I went to watch it a second time, the first 10 minutes, I loosened up as it went on because I'd seen it before, but the first 10 minutes, I watched every detail because I was like, I want to make sure I didn't miss a thing. And that
Yeah,
was one of the things that I missed was the opening telling you about the how the story was going to play out or kind of what the background of the story was very
oh
early
yeah.
on.
hmm
So
why weren't you paying attention? Like the movie just
but
started.
it
What are you
didn't grab
doing?
my attention. I was sitting on the couch playing on my phone. Oh, it
But
just didn't.
you put it on to watch it, right? It wasn't just in the background.
I put it on to watch, and I started watching, and then I was like, kind of a slow burn. This is a
Oh,
bad
burn.
choice.
What do you mean?
What that
That
was.
so I wrote down that first opening song is amazing, and
It
that the artwork and the animation when it's opening up is amazing, and it was.
it is amazing. I'm a piece of shit, and I don't give things
Yes.
enough time to really settle in. So no, it did not catch my attention. Um, and I just kind of just had it on for like the first 5 or 10 minutes, and that it was. So it was when most of the characters realized that they were switching bodies.
Yeah.
That was when I was like, "What the hell is going on?" I had no clue what was going on. Even when, God, I can't. What's the girl's name?
Which one? Mitsura.
Mitsura. Um, Even when Mitsuru was acting all weird and her friends were recapping to her, like, hey, you were
Yeah.
acting real strange yesterday, all that stuff, like, all that stuff just went over my head. I was like, okay, well, teenage Dank, she's just acting weird. And then I was like, oh, crap, they're switching bodies.
Yeah.
I was like, why? What did I miss? Was there an explanation? I guess I'm just going to have to watch from this. I'm not going to rewind. I'm going to watch from this point and see if they explain it to me later.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have had to do if I just watched the first 5-10 minutes of the movie. I would have known. Oh, okay.
Yeah. Oh, that's what's going on. You remember like when the title like scene goes up and it says obviously your name?
Hmm.
That kind of like the way that the title translates perfectly to the ending and the last words that they say. I don't want to try to jump the gun, but like that's where that reminded me of the ending when I watched it for the second time.
I have a similar thought, but when we get there, I'll tell you. But
Yeah.
a missed opportunity. Missed opportunity. The movie is perfect in my eyes, but I think it would have been there's a missed opportunity they could have taken in the very end.
Hmm.
Or just been the period to the start of the sentence. I'll tell you that
Yeah.
later. I'll leave that
Sure.
in suspense.
Of course.
Um,
You go next because I've already went through like 3 or 4 of these.
okay. So let's see here. So here's something that really caught me off guard. So you're gonna have to correct me so many times. I'm such an
Okay.
idiot. Mitsui.
Mitsura.
Mitsu-
I'm gonna make sure I'm googling this and make sure I'm saying it right because if I'm not, that's gonna be embarrassing.
Mitsuha. I have it pulled up on my screen. That's all I need. I'll just highlight it so I can always reference it quickly.
Mitsuha. Yeah,
So,
Mitsuha. Got it right on your
so
face, Lance.
and this is something that was interesting. So like very early on, Mitsuha, we're kind of older. It's implied that she's not coming from the richest person, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Their
I
house.
wouldn't say that. I mean, their house looks pretty nice, right?
That's what I was gonna say. Their house looks huge, but when she's in Tokyo, she's like, "Oh my god, these pancakes are so I could live off this for a month." Which, by the way, that scene, that's when I said this is gonna have time travel.
Why do you say that?
Because when she said I could live off these pancakes for a month, and one of the other kids goes, "Yeah, like 10 years ago," I was like,
Oh yeah, yeah. The hints. Yeah.
Of course, it was only 3 years in the major spoilers. It was only 3 years in the past, but still, like I was like, that's an interesting thing to say. I bet you there's time travel. And then
Mhm.
I was so like,
See, like totally like I thought the same thing, but like I didn't catch that hint the first time I watched it, and I was sitting there like, yeah, they switch bodies, and like they just go back and forth switching bodies, but then it was so unexpected when it's like because I didn't like catch that hint. I was like, wow, they're switching bodies, but not in the same time period, which was crazy.
and also here's another thing that I noticed, and this sort of, I might have to watch it. I'll have to watch it again. But I noticed that when they were switching bodies, they weren't the other person's bodies at the same time, right?
They
Like
were?
not on, but there was because in the first scene, the guy switches into the girl's body, right?
Yeah. Hmm.
Right. That's what we experienced first. And well, we don't experience, we more hear about it after, but that's what happened first. And then after that moment, Sua wishes that she could, let's see here. What was it she said? she wishes to be a boy in their next life. And this is after she has those weird dreams, right? So she has
Yeah.
not yet experienced going into Taki's body.
Yeah.
She's only been displaced when Taki entered her body. It brought up a whole question of where are they going
So
when
yeah,
they're being displaced. There was like a
I just
little
think they
clip,
think they're asleep.
think so, but they're not
I
just
think
like
so.
okay. Well, there was a one scene with the grandmother where I think she said you're in a dream and you see Taki kind of turn
Yeah.
to the camera and then he wakes up. So maybe it is just kind of in a deep sleep state. But that just seemed really weird to me that like not actually switching at the same time over
Yeah.
different time periods. One is switching and then the other is switching. So I thought that was
I'm,
kind of
yeah, I'm definitely jumping the
cool.
gun too here, but like, I like how the grandmother slowly figures it out as well, and and
Yeah, and
and,
she's like, "Oh
and
yeah,
she's
I
like,
did this."
yeah, I did the same thing, but I can't remember.
um, do you think that this was both of the Mitsuha and Taki's story, or do you think this is more Taki's story?
um, yeah, excuse me. I think it's both of their stories. Like, I mean, honestly, like at the closer to the end of the second half, it's definitely more of a Taki story. But like
Uh,
the first half, the focus is more on Mitsuha and like the the way that her background and her family, like generations past, how it keeps happening. I think it's more both of them. Like the first half is more Mitsuha, and the second half is more Taki trying to figure out Mitsuha's
but
like lineage.
I guess thinking on it now, I would agree with that. In the moment, though, I was thinking that this is more heavily Taki's story,
Yeah,
as like we don't get to see, and then this is where I'm agreeing with you because it's Mitsuha in Taki's body, but we didn't really get to see Taki experience or Mitsuha being in Mitsuha's life the very first time. We saw
yeah,
flashbacks of it. It
hmm
was Mitsuha entering into Taki's body. We actually got to see a full day
yeah. It's
of
true.
her like going to school, working, talking with that one uh, other waitress. Which that kind of looking back on that now, that brings up some questions I have, and you might educate me on this.
Like what?
They so like they speak to her very formally, right? Like she is.
Well, because there's formal
Well,
Japanese and informal Japanese.
let me finish before you start pulling out the chalkboard.
Do I have a
So
chalkboard? I don't think I have one.
that was metaphorical chalkboard.
I know.
No, so they speak to her very formally, right? But then they go on a date later,
Oh yeah,
and this is where I'm ignorant on this. I know that if I'm speaking formally, they're either and I'm in high school, it's because they're an adult, right? They're I'm
yeah,
16, 17. They're like in their late 20s, early 30s. So I'm going to speak to them very formally.
yeah.
But I wouldn't date them. I wouldn't
Okay.
go on. Yeah. So and well, not only would I not date them, but like that, there are laws on that with like dating minors and stuff like that. So it kind of
Hmm.
brought up this
I'll explain
weird.
Japan in a minute.
Huh?
I'll explain Japan in a minute. Go ahead.
Yeah. And so I just that whole dynamic there seemed really odd to me. Like why they were doing that, and I know it's something I just don't understand about their culture. But yeah, that's just that whole dynamic seemed odd. Can you explain to me why they were like that?
Well, so my first thought was probably he's in high school probably, but like he could be 18 at the end of his year, because
Okay.
it's 3 years older than Mitsuha. So
Hmm.
kind of makes sense, I guess. But the other aspect of it is guess what the age of consent is in Japan in 2021?
What
Guess.
is it? 16?
13. 13. 13.
What?
What is that? What is that?
I didn't know left from right when I was 13. Let alone be in a long-term relationship. That's crazy.
Yeah, that's insane, bro. Asian.
Ah.
That's crazy. I can say that because I'm Asian, everybody. Can't tell, but Chase the Asian on there. Lance can't say it, so definitely cancel him if he says anything like that.
That's fine. That's fine. I'll
But
keep my
yeah,
thoughts to myself.
like I looked that up and I'm like, this seems kind of weird having this older manager waitress lady go out with this
Yeah, like she's
boy.
their boss and older, but but yeah, I'll go on a date with you because you have a feminine side.
Yeah,
Um,
that's not really you. Everyone
yeah,
thinks you're
yeah,
crazy when you tell them.
yeah. I
Oh,
thought okay.
speaking of that, go ahead. You go first.
Oh, yeah, so that really explains a lot.
Yeah.
And I will, yeah, why that played out the way it did. So that's really cool. Well, it's really good to know now that if I ever see that later on in any animes, I can reference that. Oh, okay, this is probably what's going on here. You did mention though that you said there's formal Japan and informal Japan. Assuming, let's say that they were within that it wasn't just a wide age gap, or between these two characters. But why would they have been more formal than not in that
Well,
situation?
when I said formal Japan, informal Japan, I was saying like Japanese, like speaking. There's a
Uh,
formal Japanese like way of speaking only in like work settings and like educational settings, like when you have
okay.
like your senpai or someone superior to you. And then there's informal Japan where they like just speak normally like casually. So like once you get into more animes and more of like the romance animes that me and my wife's been watching and reading, it's cool to kind of see how being on a first name basis really means you're like true friends or real friends because you say their last name formally until you get to know them like very personally. And then you start saying first names. And like it's a big
Right.
step to get to that point saying first names.
So do you think that that was lost on me because of the culture difference, but also lost on me because I watched the dubbed version, and so the translation of it would have been in a more formal
Yeah, so
sense?
I mean, I don't know because the first time I watched it in 2016 was the sub version. So I can't remember if it was like that. I watched the dub version recently because I didn't want to pay attention like that. Oh,
No,
what I was gonna
I,
say.
yo, go ahead.
What I was gonna say is I number thing I wrote down for four is the first thing that Taki did is the same thing I would have done if I woke up in a girl's body. First thing he does is like boobs, starts and just starts like, huh, this is weird.
Pervert. That's what Mitsuo says
Yeah.
to him. How many times? I only did it the one time. Really?
No, no, not really. Done it every time we switch bodies.
I
And
mean,
then
I
like,
don't think. Right.
no, no, sorry, I just keep interrupting you. The first thing that like Mitsuha, remembering that, says is like, I have to go. I thought that was
I
funny.
it is funny, and I think though that like I don't think it. So when I see that, yeah, I mean the joke's there, but to me, I think you're in anybody's body, whether it's a guy into a girl or another guy, you're gonna be like touching and like pinching yourself or whatever because you're trying to like orient to that body that you're in.
Yeah,
I think it's perfectly. Like if I had an experience like that, I'm not familiar. Like obviously because I'm in my body, I'm very familiar with my mannerisms and how I react to certain things and how like when I'm walking, how my arms are going to flow. And it's all passive in the background. I don't think about it, but I'm conscious of it. If I was to be put into someone else's body, I'm not sure how to coordinate that. Not
yeah,
sure, you know, what it's going to be like when and especially if you're in the opposite sex's body. I'm not going to know how to orient myself, with different body parts that I don't currently have. So I think that, I mean, they played it up, but I think that definitely that is a very natural response. I would be all over like, okay, what is going on? What do I have here? I want to know what I'm walking into,
yeah,
figuratively and literally. That was
yeah.
all I wanted to say on that.
They're good. I would probably. I mean, obviously, I think the reactions that they had were very realistic. I would say.
Very much so.
I like how it
Um,
like after that whole thing happens, it immediately transfers to like the next day, and they think everything's back to normal, and they thought it was a dream because like Mitsuha and Taki's body is like, there's no consequences. I'm gonna buy all these pancakes.
yeah. oh, it's not my body, so I'll eat all these sweets rather than have a balanced diet. God, I wonder. Did, I would have loved to have seen Taki post to just binging on sweets, have like a stomach ache, something
Yeah.
like where he's just like, God, I'm not hungry at all. Like it's just like, why aren't you eating? Feel full because she ate all the candy.
Yeah.
Um, do you think that would have taken you that long, or let me rephrase it? If you were in a body switching experience, do you think you would have formed a plan with this stranger who you never met so quickly on how to manage it together? Because I feel like as kids, they would have spent more time bickering
They did do a lot of
than
bickering. What do you mean?
well, they did a lot of bickering, but they planned. Okay, this is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to manage this and how we're going to communicate to each other. It just seems there could have been some time jumps here, but it seemed like it was they were too quick to figure it out. I'm
Well, I
pretty sure
think
that
either they created or they decided, like the creators did, to pick very mature teenagers. You know what I mean? Because the way they act is not how most teenagers, I think, would formulate a plan and act. But it's also, I think, because they're on the later half of their like schooling, in my opinion. So they had time to like develop and everything. But I don't know. What's your thoughts on that?
no, um, they do seem very mature. They do seem very mature and very aware of their surroundings. I think that could be it. It's possible. So there are some, just because you're a teenager doesn't mean that you aren't very mature. And I hate the phrase "mature for your age" because it implies that you're supposed to be immature. To me, anyway, I feel like you're either mature, and there are plenty of adults who are immature for their age, right?
Yes.
And so I feel the age, immature, you're not mature, and they did seem very mature. So it just my expectation of a teenager would not be that, but it's possible that a teenager can be very mature. And so that makes sense, especially if you're in the later half of your career. And I don't know if this is true, but I feel like in my memory banks, um, that in Japan isn't grow they put a more emphasis on growing up quicker in Japan, or am
Yes.
I making that up? Okay.
Well, no, I wouldn't say growing up quicker. I would say there's a set path to follow that every Japanese person follows. And I can't speak for Japan. First off, I'm not Japanese. But second off, of course I was born in Japan, but like I was only there for 6 months. But like from everything, because I'm really big in Japanese culture and in Japan culture, I really want to live in Japan. Not possibly forever, but like just for like an extended stay. I think I would really like it. But for Japanese culture, it's really like um, you go to school, you go to college. After college, you get a job and you work at that job forever. You don't switch jobs unless you get fired or like it's like an amazing opportunity. You work at that same spot forever out of high school or out of college. Um, but there's a lot of things for like Japanese culture as well. So like they stay with their parents until like 27, 28, typically, mostly like to save money but also to like take care of their parents as well. And like most of the time when they move out, they move to a studio apartment and don't have a lot of space and everything, because and no one owns houses, no one really owns cars. It's all like walking and public transportation, which is really cool in my opinion too.
I do like that. I think it's kind of a side tangent for me is that I wish public transportation was more ahead in the United States and than it is, and I kind of get
Well,
jealous that
yeah,
of other like Germany has really good public transportation. I know Japan does too.
yeah.
Um,
Well, I think it's like if you go in the US, like um New York, and I've never been to New York, but you can tell me if you've been to New York. Like the subway system, I think is kind of similar to like Tokyo, Japan, but I don't think it flows as well. Because like in rural areas of Japan, you still have to take cars and like bikes and stuff like that.
So I haven't been to New York for a while, but yeah, I mean, there's pretty much when I remember there's a so when you're in New York and take the subway, just about every corner, not every corner, but every couple blocks, there is a subway entrance. You can go down into a station and then purchase your ticket, or if you have a pass. A lot of times, places with um, uh, more ahead public transportation will have like monthly passes that you can buy or weekly passes. This gives you like a an unlimited as you need, right? I know when we were in Seattle, that's how that worked. We bought, I think we paid for a month because it was cheaper, but maybe it was a week because it was cheaper. But anyway, we paid for more driving or more subway time than we needed, train time we
Oh yeah,
needed because it was cheaper than individually paying for each one, right?
yeah, makes sense.
Um, but yeah, I think though in Tokyo, this is purely just from what I've seen. I think it's more efficient, and also I think it's faster. So um,
It's not faster in
I
New York.
know, huh?
I don't think like Subway is faster in New York. That's for sure. Just a side tangent.
No, yeah, no, it's
So, like they're a lot more efficient.
I would agree with that. But yeah, that's kind of how that works. And I don't in New York, and I know that's how it was in Seattle and Chicago. It's like there's several entry points for stations. Um, Usually in Seattle, because it's a much more recent trip, the way it works is that the car actually goes through like the center of the city. It just goes straight up. And then if it's not within walking distance at your stop or the closest stop to where you're going, there are also buses that are going
Oh,
up and down the road. So like we could easily get off the subway, and if it's more than I don't know, whatever time distance you don't want to walk, just walk to the street corner. There's a bus stop, and you go on there and you pay what you need to, and you ride to your actual eventual destination. So
yeah,
yeah, that's why I love Seattle. I love cities, and I'm very interested in visiting Japan.
I am
And
too. We should go. Let's plan it right
should
now
go.
on stream.
How about we plan it for next year?
Nope, nope, right now.
Uh, but that's something that really interests because I'm so for public transportation. I don't know. I'm interested in going to Japan, but I'm also interested in seeing what their public transportation is like. That's part of the reason why I want to move to the West Coast so much, or specifically like the Pacific Northwest, Seattle and Portland area, is because of the public transportation system. I think it's just amazing.
Yeah, we gotta go to Akihabara. By the way, that's the
What is that?
it's the district or town or area of like manga and anime and video games. It's like a whole
That
town
that where the
dedicated to it.
is that where the Pokemon Museum is?
I don't know. Probably, I would assume. There's tons of like different buildings that are just filled with manga, anime, and like statues and stuff like that.
I know Tori would really like to go to the Pokemon Museum.
I would
We
like to
should
go
see
to
if that's
Pokemon
there.
Museum. I'm looking at like packages now.
Let's move on. Let's move on to our
No,
next note.
fine.
We can talk about this later. Let's see here. Oh, this stuck out to me, and this is another culture thing that I'm not following. Do you remember when Mitsuo was carrying her grandmother?
It wasn't Mitsuha. It was Taki, but yeah.
It's Taki in Mitsuo's body when he was
Yep.
carrying grandmother, and she was kind of being given the wise words. Is that a trope? My first thought of that was when I saw that was I thought in Star Wars Empire Strikes Back when Luke is running around training and he's carrying Yoda on his back.
Yeah.
And
Oh, yeah.
and Yoda's like giving him wise words. I know that elements of Star Wars were influenced by Japanese culture, not all of it, but some of it,
Yeah.
specifically with the Jedi and samurais. But is that a trope, or is that something common in Japan, or is there a reason why someone would carry the older person on their back like that?
I actually don't know that. That's a really good question. Um, I see that trope not a lot, but like with romance animes I do with family, I see it pretty often actually. But um, it might be a culture thing. I mean, I think it's just respecting your elders, I think. And like, seeing them like needing help and you help without, not necessarily even asking for it.
I guess part of the reason why I thought to ask that is because like if I was asked to carry like my grandmother, uh, she's by no means. It's not like she is a, a bigger person to where it would be very difficult to carry her. But I know that if I was still asked to pick her up like that on my back, it would be very hard. And I don't know if I could do it.
Yeah.
Right. Especially not in such a way, not in such a extended way where, like, if I needed to pick her up to move her short distance, sure. If I was like, oh yeah, I need you to pick me up and carry me up this mountaintop, I'd be
Well,
like, you're crazy.
well, well, Japanese people are also a lot smaller overall. So like she's probably like that grandma's probably like 4'8", 4'7", like my mom, and weighs like 110 pounds probably. That grandma.
Fair, fair. Okay. Yeah, I was just wondering if that was something that was common, carrying your elders like that, or if that was just
Yeah. I don't say that's common. I would say respecting your elders is very prominent in Japanese culture. Um, yeah, so the first time you go to the Miyazura shrine, like Mitsura's last name, that going to that shrine, and then like they're all dressed in like yukatas and everything like that. Do you know what a yukata is?
What's a yukata? What's a yukata?
A yukata is a traditional like wear. Then you go to like a festival or like a formal event, stuff like that. So like yukata is like what Mitsuha was wearing. It's like a silk like kimono kind of thing.
Is it different from a kimono, or is it another type of? Is like what is?
A
I'm showing
difference.
my ignorance here, but what? Yeah, what is the difference between that and a kimono?
I'm
And what
looking it
is
up
a
actually
kimono?
because I have no idea.
Okay.
A kimono has a soft, full width collar, whereas a yukata has a half width and stiffer collar. Due to this material it is made from. So,
Different style of garb
kimono,
then?
huh?
I was gonna say so. It's a different style of garb, but it's the same, or is there?
Same style but different like features on it. So, a kimono usually have an interior lining, whereas yukatas never do, and are sewn from a single layer of fabric. Huh. So, yukata are worn by men and women, like other forms of traditional Japanese clothing. Yukata are made with straight seams and wide sleeves. And like every time, like in romance anime, every time a girl wears a yukata, the guy or like the like significant other always swoons over that because they never see him in like that attire, which is cool.
Interesting. Interesting. But go on. You were starting to say about the shrine. Just wanted to stop you there because I didn't know what that was, and
No, you're good. I just like how like it goes to that shrine and and they're all at the festival and everything, and that's the first time you see the comet, and that's the first time like you're like, what's that comet have to do with anything? And then Taki slowly starts to figure it out.
do you think? I think they mentioned it later on. Maybe they've already answered this question, but remind me. Do you think that all this body switching? They mentioned it being over a historical period of time. a lengthy period of time. It was in response to the comment to eventually save this town. So it was kind of like a predestined, this is going to happen. So we're trying to, in a supernatural way, save these people. Or do you think the comet is when it occurs, this is what causes this family's the body switching thing to happen? And in this situation, though, it just comet ended up killing the town. Did I answer that question?
Yeah, I'm trying to think actually because I think the comet is what caused the transition or like the time switching and then the body switching. But I think because of that switch, the other things, because remember how Mitsuha's like grandma is like strings have a lot to do with it, and strings are like the flow of time, and it's not always straight. I think first of all, Mitsuha making that sake from like chewing it up and putting it in the thing, and then also like Mitsuha going to see Taki and Taki not knowing it and giving him that ribbon or that string, tethered them together, and then Taki was able to go back to the shrine later on and drink it and be tethered again. So I think all of it is a big combination of things, but I think the first thing that started it was the comet because that's the first thing that happened.
You brought up the bracelet, and I noticed this on my second viewing. We don't see the bracelet until after, in Mitsuha's time, he gives him the bracelet. Supposedly, he's had that bracelet for 3 years.
He doesn't.
We don't hear him.
So
we don't
he
hear him
doesn't
reference it until after we see. Until after the period of so. Mitsuha goes to see Taki on the night that the comet's going to hit the town.
Yeah.
And he doesn't know her because obviously he hasn't met her yet. They're not. She realizes they're in a different time frame. I think she realizes, but he doesn't recognize her. And so she gives him her bracelet. Right. That's what we see from Mitsuha's perspective. But in Taki's perspective, the comet hits on the night he's on that date with the girl from the restaurant that he works with.
Yeah.
He's like, no comment. What is she talking about? Did she get it wrong? And he tries to call her, and she doesn't answer. And that's when first time we hear the call not being able to be completed. The next morning, that's when he pulls out that bracelet. Which, if you were to look at those 2 time points and you were to pop them on top of each other as if they were happening at the same time, it's after it gives him the bracelet that we finally hear him in his time reference that bracelet.
So
I bring that up and I ask this, but do you think they're tethered together, but do you think that things are only going to happen for Taki in his time if they happen to him at that time? Do you think there's some sort of saying where it only renders true if it happens? Like if Mitsuha didn't go visit him in that timeline and her time and give him the bracelet, would the bracelet still be there? Probably not. But we don't see it because it hasn't happened yet.
So you see Mitsuha giving the bracelet to Taki in the back half of the anime, right? Right.
He goes to see it for the first time on the train, and he's like,
yeah, he throws it and everything. So the date with Taki and the waitress manager, right? That happened before all that, right? So I looked it up. I'm just trying to, because I'm pretty sure I remembered seeing the bracelet on Taki before even knowing about the bracelet, and he's wearing the bracelet in the date. I just looked it up. So it's always there. You just don't know. You don't see it until it's shown to you. So he's always had it, but Taki only wears the bracelet when it's Taki. Mitsuha doesn't know that Taki has the bracelet because she hasn't given it to him yet in her time.
Oh,
That's crazy, isn't it?
that's an
So so
interesting
so
detail.
so
I completely missed that. So
yeah, so I thought I remembered seeing Taki wearing it, but like I looked it up and like when Mitsuha is in Taki's body, she doesn't put it on because she doesn't know that she gave it to him like 3 years ago or whatever, because it's still her time period 3 years ago.
that's a cool detail.
I know,
Explains it.
right? 'Cause it
Okay, yeah,
explains a lot, doesn't it? That's
yeah.
crazy.
But that was something that really stuck out to me.
Yeah.
I'm glad we know that now. I'm gonna have to watch for that now. Watch it a
Yeah.
third time, and then okay,
We're,
where's the stamp
we're
bracelet? I want to every
yeah.
time stamp of when the bracelet appears.
We're
Uh,
we're coming up on the close, so go ahead and ask the questions that are most important to ask now. So I gotta go get that weight stuff.
um, oh, okay. So a lot of the stuff we've covered. Obviously, we agree that the music, the whole. I started listening to the album after my second watch through, and I just think the soundtrack is absolutely amazing and suits
That
the
track is
story so
amazing,
well.
bro.
The music really had the layer to each scene when we're presented with it. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah.
So I'll end then with a couple things. What was your reaction like when the comet hit? What was your initial thought when you're like, oh, obviously they're going to save this town, and
Yeah.
or that
This
didn't
town,
happen?
yeah, so like I thought the town's gonna be fine or anything like that, but I was shocked. I was like, that town just, I mean, that comet just hit that town. Mitsuha's right there. And I'm sitting there
Yeah,
like, well, and then Taki's like, yeah, and after that Tuesday or that Wednesday, we never switched again. I was like, that's because she's dead. It's because she's dead.
I was. It hit me so hard because like a lot of times in movies, I mean, they build up anticipation for a particular climax in a scene, and you're like, oh my god, is it going to happen? But I think you always know it's not going to happen. You have this expectation that the hero or the good ending is going to happen. When when the comet actually hit and just decimated that town, and we learned what happened, I was like, oh my god, this what?
Yeah.
How do you come back from that? And obviously, because we're in a supernatural time travel
Yeah,
romance movie,
and then we see that, and then Taki has to slowly figure that out, traveling
yeah.
all over Japan.
Yeah. And then the missed opportunity that I mentioned at the start of this was I thought it would be really cool. So at the end, where they're like, uh, they say, "What's your name?" Right, which is kind of
Yeah,
the
the
common
premise.
thing. Like, "What's your name? Who are you?" I thought it would have been really cool if they just walked up to each other and said, "My name is." Just answering the question that
Oh
got
yeah,
asked at the
the
start of the
beginning.
movie. What's your name? My name is.
Yeah, I
My
just
name is
like it where
Mitsuha.
it ends on. I like it where it ends on the title name. Like, what's your name?
Yeah, it's still a very good ending. I thought that was like that would have been a a fun little joke,
Yeah,
at
and
the end there.
and and as much as I want a sequel, I don't also want a sequel because it ends so well.
Well, you might be surprised when we watch our next movie,
What's the next movie?
Weathering with You. Haven't
Oh,
seen it, right?
I feel like it's gonna tie into it now. I haven't seen it.
Maybe, maybe not. It's made by
Yeah,
the same um,
people.
director. Yeah,
I have
same
to watch
people.
it.
So,
Yeah.
and
So we're
I'm
talking
not going
about.
to tell you. I'm
Yeah,
not
don't
going
tell
to
me.
tell you, but
So we'll
if
talk
there
about that
might
next time.
be. All right,
We
but
can watch it together on Discord, and I can react and review in real time.
oh yeah, we could do that. Let's see here. Weathering with You movie, because I've seen this and you haven't, so now I get to see your first reaction.
Yeah,
But versus when you heard about my first reaction to your name.
definitely.
All right.
Alrighty, we're gonna end it there, everybody. Thanks for watching. Catch you next time we watch Weathering with You live. I think that's the plan. Alrighty, see ya.
Bye.